Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Deal with D and J. I am your co-host, DJ McCatherine, joined here with Jacob, your other co-host. Freebird singing in the distance. USA looks to capture the Four Nations Championship, like
Yep.
the trophy. Um, College basketball updates, NBA All Star break updates, and some NASCAR updates. So full sledge or full slate of stuff to cover today, guys. Jacob, first, how are you doing?
Good. It's real cold here. It's currently 26 degrees in Waco, Texas, which I never thought I would see, but here we are. So I'm staying warm. Everybody was real cold today, so just trying to stay warm and enjoy the indoors a little bit here. But it's never thought I would see 26 and snow flurries going to work today.
Well, we're gonna stay in the cold for this first topic. The Four Nations tournament. USA, Canada was it was the talk of the town for a solid 72 hours. So give us an update on this thing. Um, yeah, let's start with USA, baby.
Yeah, I mean, the Four Nations tournament kind of replaced the NHL All Star game this year. This is kind of where I kind of want to start this conversation, DJ, because both All Star games, NBA and NHL, were both happening. And the NHL, I think, has cracked the code for the All Star weekend. This Four Nations tournament has been nothing but a success. Personally, I think it's been amazing. The Canadian crowd the first night when it was Canada, Sweden was nothing but rowdy. Um, it just led to all the buildup to what was arguably the most hyped hockey game in a long, long time between USA and Canada for the first time in 9 years that we got best on best. I think that's what made this truly great was that we haven't had it in so long. So many of these guys haven't played for their country since they were like 18, 19, or 20. And like
Right.
Connor McDavid, the biggest star in hockey right now, he has never played for the Canadian team until this go around. He did it in World Juniors and in his younger days, but not in a tournament like this.
Right.
Um, and I think it's been nothing but success. The Canadian crowd was great. And then they went to Boston, and the Boston crowd was even better. And now we have a matchup for Thursday night. And when this episode comes out, this will comes out on Friday, but we'll have it, on TikTok. But I can't wait to see what this team does. And obviously, what's more patriotic than your goal song being Freebird? And then in the first game, you score 6 times, right? Then in the second game, you have 3 fights in 9 seconds, right? There's nothing that like this is their break. They're supposed to like relax, right? In the middle of the season, but no. They are all treating it like it's game 7, they say. It means so much for them to play for their country. And I think the NHL has cracked the code in this Four Nations. I will say one thing. I think they got the best Four Nations in terms of totality of athletes from each country, but I would definitely have loved to see like Czechia in there or Germany. Obviously, with Russia, they don't let Russia in into like any international competitions now, but like the Russian hockey team versus the U.S. would feed families. You thought USA Canada feed families. This USA Russia would feed families. Um, so I think they can expand upon that. They did announce that NHL players are going back to the Olympics for the first time
Oh,
since
wow.
20. It's been over 10 years. When they go play in the Olympics, it would be over 10 years. So we would get best on best hockey again, right? And then every other year, kind of like soccer. How well do you know soccer?
Depends on
So
what you're about to ask me.
like international soccer, like World Cup and Euros. You know about all that?
I know.
So
I know
like
the bells and whistles.
so in between the World Cup every 2 years they have what's called the Euro, like the Euros, the
Yeah.
European. So the
Okay.
NHL is taking that basically same exact model.
Okay.
Is like every 2 years after the Olympics, they have now what's called the World Cup of hockey. and it's very similar idea of the Olympics, but more like a little bit more dialed in, and it's like sponsored by the NHL and all this different yards, But I think this has been nothing short of amazing, DJ. I mean, so many people are talking about USA Canada last Saturday, right?
Hmm.
We win the game, which is even better for us. But like that game, DJ, I saw a stat this morning. That game averaged 4.4 million viewers, the highest rated hockey game this year, and it's the first time a game's been that highly rated since like 2017.
Really?
Yeah, so unbelievable stuff. The top three games have been USA Canada at one. Number two was Canada Sweden, the opening game, and then USA Finland. So those have
Hmm.
been both averaging well over a million viewers in those games. So I think the NHL has cracked the All Star code. DJ, I want to hear your thoughts a little bit before we talk a little bit about the NBA and how much they're just like dropping the ball.
Well, I mean, I think just to spill over just a little bit into the NBA with this next comment is that's all that anybody wants to see when it comes to All Star. It's you playing your best competition against the best competition. So I think what the NHL has done here is fantastic, and they have taken the concept of people who love their country and love to play for their country and made it bigger than just, hey, this is just a collection of the best people. No, this is the collection of the best people playing for their country. And it's basically the Olympics. What, every year? Are they doing this every year?
I don't think so. I think this is a one-off
Okay.
because people were really starved for best on best.
Right.
Um, and there was nothing, and the players wanted it, right? It's one thing, it's kind of the opposite of the NBA, right? Let's go ahead and kind of segue into this, right?
Hmm.
NBA players kind of really don't want the All-Star game. They rather just go to Cancun and spend about 4 days in Cancun, let their bodies relax, and then come back um, to the regular season versus the NHL. What they did this go around is like the players went to the commissioner and were like, we want best on best hockey. Like, let's not do this passing skills crap, like the skills competition. Like, we just want to play the best. Like, we want to play with guys we haven't played before, like an all-star game.
Right.
Let us play for our country. Let us have like some juice to it. And then like it obviously it's paid off in dividends, right?
Right.
And hockey's the talk of the town this week. Like, I mean, who doesn't have Thursday night circled on their calendar, right? Maybe not you, because you're not a puckhead like me. But like, you know, that's what I think the NHL has kind of cracked is like people love this. And the thing is, it's so short, right?
Hmm.
It's a very short amount of time for these guys. And these guys are playing, DJ, like it's game seven. They're laying their
Yeah.
bodies on the line. Like they're forechecking, they're hitting hard, they're throwing knucks. Like they're like it's ultimate pride. Like I saw something on Twitter where it's like the NHL really was like these guys put on their country sweater and they just turn into like prime Mike Tyson game seven animal. They like want this so bad. And I think this has really paid off. I think it's similar to like when all the NBA guys on Team USA were like, saw that we got embarrassed in the FIBA World Cup and they were like, oh, nah, like we're not letting that happen again.
Right.
So that, I think can potentially do some stuff. I think you can't really call this an all-star game, but it really is though. Like all the best are playing. So
Right.
like, and the thing is too, is like every guy you can tell is trying. And I think that's
Hmm.
what people want. When I see best on best, I want to see you want to go and win versus I don't care about seeing Trey Young dribble through some people's legs, hit a bounce pass, and then somebody dunks it, right? I don't want
Right.
like, I think the NBA has some issues to figure out. If we're gonna talk about it, and I think it's more of a sense of like, what more can you do with your product? Because basketball, like back in the early 2000s, like, dude, NBA All Star game was like much to watch.
Right.
Like, I mean, you watch the dunk contest, like nobody really cared about the NHL. I mean, people still don't like technically viewership numbers, right? But like the NBA, like I remember being like watching Shaq and the Jabberwockies, and he had the whole Shaq dance for those watching on YouTube. I'm
Mhm.
trying to emulate it. Like he had the whole dance and the whole entrance, like it was a whole party. And like I remember telling my parents, like, I gotta watch this.
Right.
Like, where else am I gonna see Kobe and Shaq and LeBron and like and Steve Nash and AI and like all on the court together playing for the same goal? And it's like instead I'm watching some players kind of mess around. They're playing to 40. They're doing these like, did you see the numbers from this where
Um, yeah.
they had more commercial time than they did actual gameplay? That's not a recipe to win. That's not a recipe of success.
Nope.
Not to mention, then you have, what was it, Saturday night? You have Wembenyama just making a mockery of the skills competition.
Well, him and CP3.
Like that. I think that tells you everything you need to know about what the players feel about the All Star game.
If that's anything, I think it's a cry for help.
Yeah,
You
dude.
know,
I
I
think,
think I
yeah,
think what people need to do, um, or what the NBA needs to do is if the players aren't willing to play at the level that they're capable of, right, for a game, right, make it at least seem less stressful. Let's say instead of doing a a 5-on-5 full court, right, where they were exerting all this energy, well, split the court in half, do half court 3-on-3 matchups. I think that's an easy solution, right? You let the players pick who they want. You can have three or four captains, six captains, however this tournament play is, right? It kind of requires more, right? It'll require a little bit more defense, but you're not necessarily exerting all your energy running up and down the court. And then give them a prize at the end. You know, I know it's sad to have to incentivize people to do something, right? Especially as this is a certain time for this, but I don't think that there's any way to convince these players that playing in the All-Star game is worth it. I think it's already surpassed that point, unfortunately. Um, so I think you could get a collective of the best people in the NBA, put them on these short teams, these small teams, and make them play 3-on-3. Make it a tournament. You get to display, one if you want one-on-one matchup, you can do that, right? If you want the uh, the level of defense, I think people would be incentivized. Well, I've only got to guard this person right here in front of me, right? I don't have to use as much of my brain capacity to figure out what kind of defense these teams are playing, right? And I think it allows just a showcase of somebody's talent without having to exert the same amount of energy. Um, that's my quick solution. As for the dunk contest, I don't know what more you can do. It requires participation, right? It requires John Morant, Zion. It
yeah,
requires your best, and not even your best, but recognizable people
yeah, I, yeah,
the people that have bounce. Mac McClung, yes, he's got bounce. He had a couple of crazy dunks. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to deny that. But overall, it was boring. Nobody that we wanted to win was there, right?
yeah.
It's like back when Aaron Gordon, right? And I think that's low key the downfall of all of this, right? I think Aaron Gordon not winning a slam dunk contest is where we got
Yes.
to this point. Aaron Gordon was a random selection from the Orlando Magic back in I don't even know what year was it, 2016,
We were in
2017.
ice.
And it doesn't matter. I don't care who you are. If he goes and jumps and clears his mascot, takes a seat on his head, and pulls the
While
basketball out from underneath him
while the mascot's moving, keep in
while the
mind.
mascot's moving and dunks it, I don't care what he does next. You got to win that man an award. And Zach LaVine had some crazy dunks too, but that Aaron Gordon dunk was the craziest dunk I think anybody has ever seen. It is the equivalent to um, Vince Carter's off the glass and in between the legs, right where he goes just like that. It's the equivalent. It's this generation's Vince Carter dunk like that.
Yeah, I think going back to it, it's like the NBA tried to do the Four Nations thing. They tried to like do it too. Because listen, they did Shaq's OGs, they did Kenny's Young Stars, Chuck's Global Stars, and then Candace had the Rising Stars. Now, to nobody's avail, like it's okay. But like, listen to this team of Brunson, Cunningham, Edwards, Garland, Hero, Jaron Jackson, Jalen Williams, and Evan Mobley. You're telling me they're going up against Jaylen Brown, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, James Harden, LeBron James, Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, like Kyrie Irving. Like, they're not going to win. Like, you assembled the best, but it's like you assembled Team USA like for Shaq. Like, it's hard
Right,
to watch. Even Victor Wembanyama was frustrated because like they just let Tatum go up for a wide open layup, and Wembanyama's like, "What are we even playing for? Like we're
right.
playing to win," and they're trying to be like, "Slow down." For the dunk contest portion, I think it's hard for me. Like Matt McClung has done a great job,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is not take away anything he's done, but like you're a G leaguer. Like this is where it's resorted to. Now, I think Stephen Castle was low key kind of snub from what I saw. He has some nasty dunks, but it's also like he's a G leaguer. You only see him at like he averaged what 2 points a game in the NBA. Like this
Do
is
you
what
see
we're.
that his career earnings? He has
I know
more career earnings from the NBA dunk contest than he has.
it's all dunk contest money,
Mm-hmm.
and like good
By
for him.
like almost double.
Yeah, go get your bread. I think also I think everyone got really excited when Ja was like, "Yo, Matt McClung might make me participate," and then Giannis was like, "If you do it, I'll do it." Like that's what we need is these guys being like, "If you do it, I'll do it." Like we just need guys, and I think Stephen A. and some people on Twitter, I think is a great conversation to have. Is like, you know, is LeBron bad for the NBA nowadays? Is LeBron bad for business? Because
Why? I don't understand why.
how
Please, if you're behind what they're saying about that, please explain it to me because I
I'm not
haven't been able
behind.
to
Listen, I'm
understand.
not behind what they're saying, but I understand where they are coming from. Is that you went through years and years and years of like, is LeBron going to do the dunk contest? Is he going to do the dunk contest? Like he always kept teasing it, like, oh, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. Maybe you might see me, maybe you won't. And then he just never does. Right. That's not like an inherently bad thing, but it also is like if you're solely waiting on one guy, it's like, ugh, right? Then you had Zion, and you're like, oh my God, this kid's going to be great. And then Zion can't even stay on the court for 40 games out of an
Right.
80 game season, right? And then it's like another thing about LeBron is like, he was an all star, and then he was like, my foot hurts, and then he's not playing. Is LeBron bad for business? Absolutely not. He's the main reason why the NBA is still relevant. I mean, he's put them through some trial times and making teams relevant that he shouldn't have and like has revitalized other franchises. Like the Lakers were dead in the water,
Right.
dead in the water. He comes, revitalizes. They're the talk of the town. They're back to the forefront. Right now they have Luka and the whole 9 yards. But like somebody said, like LeBron's the downfall of the NBA. That is not true at all. The NBA to
No.
me, I think is never. I think it's healthy. I think they have some things they need to figure out. They need to make the game, I think, a little shorter. I'm not saying, you know, 4 10-minute quarters, But we got to figure out a way to eliminate some of these reviews, some of these free throws, right? Let the guys play. And it's hard because everyone's so talented. But like, if I see Shea
Yeah.
Gilgeous-Alexander get to the line 18 times, you know,
They need to bring back a more physical league.
yeah, I agree. And the guys know how to work the refs, and the refs sometimes let them play, sometimes they don't. But like when
It's
you,
like
but like in the
there's no
college game,
framework
but like in the college
into.
game, yeah,
Go ahead.
like in the college game, the like what a ref, if a ref misses a call, you hear the whole crowd just like booing this guy, bashing him, blah, 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 right?
Hmm.
Versus like the whole 9 yards of, the NBA, they get something wrong, they got to go to review it. And it's like, dude, there's 8 minutes left in the third quarter and it's 9:30. The game started at 7. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
College basketball is done in 2.5 hours, sometimes quicker. Like women's games,
I don't know the last time I've been in a stadium for basketball for 2.5 hours.
women's basketball, I think Loki has it down. Four 10-minute quarters,
Hmm.
media at 5, you get a quarter break. Media at 5, halftime. You get your floater timeout, media at 5, quarter break, media at halftime, media in the fourth. Like, and these coaches aren't calling timeouts either. Like, they only have 4 timeouts in the NBA. You got like 7 of them, I think. I don't even
Mm.
know. I don't watch enough NBA to know that, like on a nightly basis. But like that's another thing too, is like they go on a little bit of run, timeout, and then there's not enough back and forth. And like the NBA game is all just messed up.
Hmm.
And I think Adam Silver is trying to figure it out, but also the players gotta like figure it out themselves.
Right.
Like we talked about last week on last week's episode. NBA trade deadline is more entertaining than the actual game itself. That's bad. That's bad for
Yeah.
business. Very bad for business. And MLB All Star is always going to be super traditional, and like I love it personally.
I
Um,
mean, the MLB and currently what the NHL is doing is the only authentic,
yeah,
All Star game where you're getting the competition that the people want to see. You're seeing the biggest stars on the biggest stage, right, with the best people,
like people like
in a cool venue, mind you, as well.
I also think it's funny, and this is how you know the NBA is in trouble. And this has no slight on women's sports. This is not a slight. But if you're the NBA and you have to go to Caitlin Clark to come and revitalize her All Star game, for her to be doing a 3-point contest with like Steph Curry, like they did with the NASCAR last year, right? Which is great for the women's game. It's more exposure, but like Caitlin Clark's like it's been there, done that. Like, are we gonna do this rigmarole every year just to help you, and we get no benefit from it,
Right.
right? And I think it's not a bad cry for the NBA because they're like, if it works once, it'll work again. But then it's not an all-star game anymore. Like
Right.
then it's literally the celebrity game again.
Right.
Like, which again, don't know how people still play that at all. Don't even know how they do it.
It's tough to watch.
It is. The NBA is just in trouble. They need to figure it out. Because if you ask someone like me who is an avid hockey fan, like hockey, I'm not going to say is like a top two because for me, I think it goes football, baseball, hockey, basketball right now. And in baseball, while the viewership isn't up, I think people really enjoy going to the ballpark. I think people
Hmm.
really like, I think being almost, it's very Americanized again of beer, hot dogs, you and your buddies, $3 tickets. Let's go berate the left fielder, right?
Hmm.
Or or it's, hey, we can meet up for drinks downtown. Let's grab a beer. Like, then we can walk over to the outfield and like have a hot dog or hamburger. And then it's like, I think it's become very Americanized
Hmm.
versus football. Football's king. Football, no one's toppling the beast. And then I think hockey and the NBA are both battling, but it's like if you go to an NHL game, like you went to a Tampa Bay Lightning game, How much
Hmm.
fun is that?
I
Versus
mean, for
versus going to like you go to Orlando Magic game, you probably don't even know what happens like half the time because you're like they're gonna score, blah blah blah. Versus like hockey, you have to be locked in.
right, yeah, I think the problem more so than anything with basketball in it and just as a sport in general is you don't need defense to win. You don't. You need to out offense the next person. And that's a case for all sports. But you don't need defense to grab a rebound, you know? And it's just one of those things. I mean, to be able to hit in baseball, you need to get three outs, right? To to get the ball back on offense in football, right?
Yeah, I
The other
guess
team's
stop.
got to score, and then you have to match it, right? And if you want to win, you got to stop them. But if you miss in basketball, the ball's still in play. There's no real risk,
I
or
think,
there's not an equivalent amount of risk in
yeah.
because it's easy now too. That's the thing about hockey. That's why hockey defense is important because it's hard to score, right?
And you got
You
to
make it harder
and
for NBA players to score. Maybe, maybe you got something there.
I think the NBA, the guys are so good now. And it's like
They
they really
are
they are so good that it makes like these guys are playing good defense, but it's also like we can also tell when you are playing good defense and that's a tough shot,
right.
right? And I think the NBA also is having a problem of individualism versus team effort, right?
Yeah.
Like the NBA has always been a very like the individual all-star, right?
Hmm.
But like you can't outside of the stars, you can't name half the other guys on the roster.
Right.
Versus in hockey, you got to pretty much know like who's your forwards and like your defensemen, right? You got to kind of know who your team a little bit better, right?
Hmm.
In
Hmm.
baseball, you have your pitchers and you got the hitters, and in football, like we can name the offensive linemen for the freaking Eagles and the Bills, like and the Chiefs. We can name the defensive coordinator and all this other stuff. Like
Right.
that's how like that's just storytelling, right? But it's
It's
also
the
just
importance of everybody's role.
yes, versus like because like here's the thing, like hockey, the sixth defenseman on the roster, which is like he barely makes it.
Hmm.
If you get a goal from him, that's a big deal, right? You're getting scoring from a guy who averages maybe 12 minutes on the ice,
Right.
right? It's a big deal. Now you're kind of starting to know it. And maybe it's a third line guy or a fourth line guy, right? And then pitching, maybe you get a fourth round like Aaron Nola. Guy was kind of non-existent and then became a superstar in the playoffs, right?
Right.
But I think playoffs help make things better. But in the regular season too, right now, it's very tough for the NBA. And
Yeah.
I think the NBA is in a little bit of trouble. Um, and that's pretty much it. I think it's become very, very corporatized. And it
Hmm.
does I feel like the game is lost when I watch the NBA.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, as far as the All Star Weekend goes, they just got to find a way to make it more competitive. And I think if you put people in one on one, or maybe you do 2-on-2 tournaments, 3v3 tournaments, you make the court smaller, right? You
I like
you
your
you do
three.
something half court where it even just gives the appeal, right? I think it's funny because you got to give people the opportunity to look bad, right?
Yeah,
Because I think that's what people are scared of. If I'm KD, no, I do not want to go 2-on-2 with Steph Curry and I don't know, maybe Trey Young. Kevin Durant's going to get sauced up, out there. And that's an ego thing on his side. But, you know, he could. I think it'd be worth a shot. I think it'd be
I
interesting to see
love.
these high level people go against other high level people on a tighter quarter
Yeah,
like type of atmosphere.
I like your idea to 3-on-3. And the thing is, you can make a tournament out of it.
That's what I'm
Like you get a roster of five, right?
no, I don't even no. No,
You don't
no
want
five.
five?
Three. Nope. Three people.
Well, I'm thinking of it like you do it like the women's unrivaled league where it's 3-on-3 comp, full court, right? And
Mm,
you get more scoring, which is always good, but you're getting very good matchups. Like you might get Wembanyama and Jokic against each other, and then it's Dame against Steph, and like maybe it's Tatum against Brown, right? Maybe you have them pit against each other, right? Or
mm,
then maybe
yeah.
it's Brunson versus Edwards, or Brunson and Edwards are on a team, or it's Edwards and SGA. Like, how exciting is that when I can see that a ton? And they play to, they do the Elam ending. They play to 40. You win by 3, whatever it is, right? Or until time. Maybe it's timed. You know,
Mm.
it, for 10 minutes, the team with the most points wins. Type
I,
deal.
s- I see that angle, but I'm still trying to think of getting everybody to play. Like I hate that all stars go and then not seeing an all star play. So
Yeah.
you take, maybe three positions. You do a point guard, and then you do a shooting guard, small forward, and then you do a power forward, center, right? And that's your three, and it's in a category, right? So you can't double up on point guards, right? You can't
Yeah.
double up on centers, right? You do one of each category. No teammates, no teammates,
Yep.
and you only get three, and it's a tournament, right? And so how many people make the NBA All Star team? Was it 20?
Yeah, I think so.
So make it 21 or maybe 24, right? That's 8 teams,
Yep.
and you do a tournament, and the winner gets whatever, you
Yeah,
know?
I think it's a great idea. And then I also think as well, like, oh, it was just on the tip of my tongue. But I think it's one of those things where if you develop it and you give it a shot, like I think it could work. I think it'd be really entertaining. Like,
Yeah,
especially if the guys care and you're like, or it's like, it came back to me. It's like if it's 3-on-3, right, and you get X amount of fouls, right, and then maybe it's like, lacrosse in a sense.
right.
Maybe it's 4-on-3 for like for
Oh, like I do a penalty.
yeah, for a penalty.
Wow.
You get a penalty for
Okay.
30 because lacrosse they do a minute, 30 seconds, releasable, non-releasable. Maybe you try it, right? Maybe you
Yeah.
try like you got to be disciplined. If you're just gonna if you're gonna go hack a shack, you're gonna get punished. Then there's a fourth guy, right? Or
Hmm.
maybe it's I don't know. I think you can try some things you can take from other sports and make it fun. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe, maybe you do the substitutions like basketball, not
Yeah.
basketball, like hockey. You just run off, like maybe it's a little willy nilly, but who
Hmm.
knows? Staying on the topic of basketball here, kind of a college basketball update.
Yeah.
There are 2 weeks left in the season, or three in the men's, two in the women's. Um, and we are getting down to the wire. Conference championship season is going to start soon, and I cannot wait. There's some
Yep.
mid majors that I'm keeping an eye on, DJ, but I'm not going to bore you with that because we're going after the heavy hitters. We had Auburn, Alabama this past Saturday, and
We had all
Auburn,
the rivalries this past weekend, didn't we?
all the big ones. And I'll
I
tell
yeah,
you,
I think. Sorry, I'm gonna cut in real quick. I didn't know that they set it up like this.
yep,
I don't know if this is a first or this is normal for college basketball, but I turned on my notifications were popping off, and I was like, Auburn and Alabama play this weekend, and then I turned around and was like, oh, Ohio State Michigan's playing this weekend, and I'm like, oh, another rivalry game's happening. I'm like, what is going on?
yeah, in the last week of the season, it's rivalry weekend as well. They used to do it like a big deal. Like it used to be rivalry weekend. And it was like always Duke, UNC, and it was like Kansas, Kansas State, right? Texas, Oklahoma. Like it was all this. And like, I mean, we had some big games, DJ. I mean, start off Auburn, Alabama. Auburn goes into Tuscaloosa, wins 94-85. Broome had 19 and 14. I mean, just Auburn has really defined themselves as the number one team in the country. It is
Yep.
Auburn and everybody else. That's how big of the gap it is. It's a very, very big gap. Um,
You
Duke
think
took care.
so?
Duke took care of business, right? Houston's really starting to pull away in the Big 12 right now. They took care of business against Arizona. Wisconsin's starting to look devious as they went to Purdue, which is a tough place to play, and took care of business as well. Um, Texas got an upset over Kentucky, which is huge for their bubble watch. And the Kansas Jayhawks are slipping. Not only did they
Mm,
lose to Utah on Saturday, but they just lost to BYU by nearly 20. This Kansas team is starting to slip. Missouri took care of business. Clemson took care of business. There's so many teams, DJ, that are just handling their business the right way right now. And they're doing
yeah,
everything right. But again, it's all about how are you playing when it comes to March. We're getting close. And I think Auburn, I want to talk about the Auburn Tigers here because people are probably saying to themselves like, Auburn, that's a football school. It's a football school.
right.
Bruce Pearl's done a great job. They are a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense that normally leads to success. They've been a top 5 team in the country at minimum. They have can't and they're battle tested, DJ. I mean, they might have one of the hardest schedules that I've ever seen, or that like here's their schedule. They played number 4 Houston, 1. Played number 5 Iowa, 1. Played number 12 North Carolina, 1. They lost to Duke. They also beat Purdue by, when Purdue was 16. And then they were just handling their business in the SEC outside of um that one game against Florida.
Right.
So, I mean, the Florida Gators look dangerous. The whole SEC is crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
the SEC is nuts.
but I just wanted to give a quick little highlight to what college basketball is, DJ. I need you. You gotta be locked in. I know you're a March guy, but you gotta get in now. You gotta get in now, DJ. So, DJ, you might have had what a lot of people are jealous about. You had a crazy great weekend at the Daytona 500. Talk to us about what that experience was like before we go into the race that happened on Sunday.
The Speed Week at Daytona International Speedway is unlike anything that you could see anywhere else. Have you ever been to a NASCAR race?
Yep.
You have. It is an experience beyond all other. And this league, like the Daytona 500, and even for the other series, the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, like this first week at Daytona is their Super Bowl. They open up with the biggest on the biggest stage at arguably the most famous track that they race on, and it is a whole festival. I mean, you're talking 160,000 people filling this area, right, in the grandstands. It's an RV park in the middle, where hundreds, and maybe even thousands of campers, RVs. Uh, it is an experience beyond all other. I'm gonna have pictures in here for everybody to see. Um, but it was my first time being able to work it. It kind of sort of work it. I was training for work on how to do everything, but they let me have some free reign. I got to go behind to the garages where they're working on their cars, fixing them up. I filmed practice, some qualifying, the truck series, um, and the Gatorade, or not the Gatorade duels. They are the Florida Fresh duels now, but and it's a whole spectacle. So they do their normal stuff for qualifying, where each individual car goes out and tries to do the fastest lap, and then the qualifying race, or the qualifying race, um, sets the rest of the field. So I believe you get your pole sitter, so that's the person who starts in first, in second, and then the race, right? It doesn't happen anywhere else, right? The qualifying race doesn't happen at any other track, and they fight for position or where they're going to start for the Daytona 500. And so it was a crazy cool experience. Drama in the truck series for those who watch the TikTok. A good race in the Xfinity series, and of course the Daytona 500 was fantastic.
So, DJ, for the people that don't know, when you say drama in a race? Most people are like, what drama is there? They're just making left turns. They all are built the same. Like it or like what do you mean by drama in a race like that?
So there's a lot of different things that could happen, like dramatically, right? I mean, you could see some of the gnarliest car crashes you've ever seen. Those can be dramatic. Um, in the 500, we saw like a questionable block and a questionable move by the person that the other guy was blocking. So Ricky Stenhouse had a late block, but Joey Logano tried to fit his car where there was only three-quarters of a car lane, like three-quarters of a car available. So he tried to make his own lane. And so then you're judging who's doing what, and then you have close finishes, and then in this particular instance in the truck series, so my reporter or our station's reporter and cameraman were setting up for their live shot for their 11 o'clock show. It was like 11 11:15 ish, and we were doing the post game or the post race press conference with oh my gosh, his name, it slips me every single time. Driver Parker, um oh my gosh, Parker Kligerman, Parker Kligerman. Ah, wow, all the engines were going for that one. Parker Kligerman had just finished up his post race press conference, right? So in NASCAR, when you win, you normally you collect the flag, you do your little burnout, you go to victory lane where they do their sponsor roulette and they take pictures with their hats on, they get to celebrate, and then they go into the post race press conference. And so this guy does his post race press conference, happy as can be, right? He just won at Daytona. He's a part-time driver now. He retired from full-time racing, so the opportunity is cool, and then to do something with his opportunity is even cooler. They brought in his bourbon, his Daytona winners bourbon. I handed it to him, and he left, and I was picking a soundbite for for our TikTok, and after it, or about 30 seconds after he came or he left the conference, an official came in and was like, just some post race news. The 75 car failed post race inspection. So the cars get tested before and after they get inspected to make sure all the configurations are fair. And they said that the rear of his car was too low to the ground. I thought they said the front was too. I'd have to go look back and say, but I thought they said the front and the back bumpers were too close to the ground, and they disqualified him.
So what is that but when he came into the race, everything was legal, right?
Yeah,
So how does a car come in? This has always been a question of mine. Always
mhm,
been. Maybe you have an answer, but how does a car come into a race legal and then
right.
leave not legal?
So the only thing that I can assume is that maybe on different tracks, they're able to raise and lower the amount of space there is between, the bumper and the ground, right? And so, like on road courses, for instance, they get a little bumpier, or based on the banking of the track, right?
Mm,
They kind of raise and lower um, the bumpers. I don't really know, right? Maybe there's a mechanism. Maybe it gets bumped by accident. Maybe somebody missed it pre-race. Maybe it was on purpose. Maybe they tried to give themselves an edge because when your car is lower to the ground, there's less
less crap.
airflow that goes into it, which inevitably makes it faster.
Yep.
But it wasn't like he was in the front of the race the whole time either. He was in a good spot by the time caution came out, and I believe he only led 2 laps, when it ended up being the last two. So I don't know, and that kind of irks me too, um, because accusing somebody of cheating is a wild accusation, right? Especially a professional of their sport, right? And especially when it's singled out, right? Because most of these racing teams are brought behind the person driving the car. So I don't know. I would like to think he didn't cheat. Um, but I don't know how you miss it. I don't know how you get it to happen either. So
Yeah. I think so. Byron, William Byron. There we go. I was about to say
mhm.
Byron Nelson, the golfer. Uh, just because I was looking at tickets earlier. But William Byron won the NASCAR. He went back to back.
Yep.
Seems like Daytona is his like home course because when I went to Daytona way back with Drew, it was the Daytona 400, the Coca-Cola night race.
Yeah,
Um,
that used to be the July race and is
yeah,
now
but
the
now it's
August
in,
race.
yeah, now it was in August and it was like right after COVID, so it was the only race you could go to like.
Yeah.
And like I had so much fun, but William Byron won. So it seems like Daytona is kind of his home race. There was 41 cars that were involved in some type of crash. I think I saw a stat like or some type of collision, like whatever it is. But
Hmm.
William Byron was one of those three cars that wasn't involved in one. Talk to me
Yeah.
about what you saw in the race and everything that led to it, because Daytona's known for two things. Well, three things. It's the steepness of the bank of the turn,
Hmm.
drafting, and going three wide. And
Yeah.
that's how they
No.
say it too. They're going three wide, three wide.
No. So I did not get the pleasure of going to this race this year, but I did watch it. Um, so Daytona is known for a lot of things. It's the fastest, if not the second fastest track, um, based on like the distance that you travel as well. I mean, there are some quick tracks that are smaller, but it's a wide open track. It's one of those tracks that you don't need to worry about the brake unless you're trying not to hit the person in front of you. Um, but the race itself, after being delayed due to rain, um, it's always close knit. It's tight quarters, right? There tends to be a lot of um, meaningless yellows that kind of keep everybody together. But when you get everybody together like that, it's easy to stack up, right? And that's why in tracks like Talladega and Daytona, you run into these big wrecks. It's because everyone's able to stick rather close to each other, right? Um, and so towards the end of this race, there were two big wrecks, and there was one in the middle of this race. And it was just, hey, somebody was, you know, on the brakes up front, and it's an accordion, it's a domino effect. This guy up front checks up when you're running 195 miles an hour, and you're three-quarters of an inch from the next person. Someone this guy hits the brake. You do not have time at the back of this line to avoid the person out front. So it's really a game of inches. And it's it's just incredible to watch how these cars move on, a wind gust, right? And how much it affects their car, and how um without even touching the car, where your car is positioned to the person next to you, in front of you, behind you, how it affects your vehicle, how it affects the race car is incredible. Um, I didn't know if there was another specific question that you had for it, but towards the end of this race, um, you know, on a track like Daytona, right, bump drafting is key, right? It's the person behind you, getting real close to you. It lessens the airflow above. So it's coming straight across instead of here and hitting this wall again and going. It inevitably makes your car faster while the person behind you is basically pushing you. Um, they the first big wreck that happened that took out a good bit of people, the driver up front, you know, just couldn't handle his car being pushed. He was just destroying him on the backside. Pause. Um, uh, and it inevitably caused a wreck of the leaders, and that's where you saw that big wreck with Pierce, who geez, he has some bad luck at Daytona, man. He has had the worst wrecks. He's the reason that down the backstretch there's no grass anymore because he flipped his car 7, 8 times in the air last year, and they repaved it to keep, it's Daytona, it rains. Um, and then another one was Joey Logano. Again, like I mentioned earlier, tried to fit his car where it didn't necessarily belong. Um, and somebody tried to block it successfully. And then, the run that Logano had was just too fast. And he was like, well, you're going to block me late. I'm going to do it again. And if you turn yourself in the process,
On you.
that's not my fault. And he
Who do
ended up
you
wrecking himself and others.
is Logano get a bad rap for being a dirty driver? I think he's
Um,
a
he,
dirty.
there have definitely been some moments where it's more selfish than anything, I think it's hard sometimes when you're trying to block a car that's faster than you, right? And I think that's an issue, right? Just in general, is when your car's better than somebody and somebody's in your way. I mean, the objective is not to let the person behind you get in front of you. So what's to stop somebody from dumping him when they're in your way? And it's very catch 22. Um, but
Have you read that book?
catch 22, I have
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, neither have I. It's a great saying though. DJ, what an experience for you, being down there behind pit road and everything
Hmm.
else on the off days. I know the dealers love the content. I know I loved it personally. So with that being said, DJ, I think that wraps us up for this show. We're kind of in a lull here, right? We have no NFL combines coming up. I think next weekend, I want to say, or 2 weekends. Don't quote me on that. Let me look it up real quick. Let's get this right.
While you're looking up, I'm going to add one more
It's
thing about
it's
NASCAR, and then we have another segment, or this quick segment might be throwing an audible at you, but
are you going Daytona or can I get my combine thing in first?
I was going Daytona.
Go Daytona. I'll get
So
back to
because
the
you
combine.
mentioned being behind pit road, those boys are athletes down pit road. Let me tell you, the pit crews for these teams, I got the honor of talking to one of Denny Hamlin's um, pit crew guys, and these are D1 athletes. Because I asked him, I was like, how do you get into
This.
being a pit crew?
Yeah.
Like, do you decide, hey, I just changed this tire real fast? Like, let me go try out for these teams. He's like, no, a lot of us are former athletes. I said, he's like, I played football, and I could see him trying to be a little humble, but it just begged the question. I was like, oh, where'd you play? He said, I played for the Bears, the Jets, the Packers, and one other team that I don't remember. He didn't end up making it to the league, but he was a Northern Illinois graduate. Um, it was a D1 college athlete, and it's just a crazy thing because these guys are moving. I mean, changing 4 tires in 20-ish seconds and
Not even
lugging those tires around.
faster.
I'm sorry.
Probably faster.
Oh yeah, just about that time, you know.
Yeah.
So real athletes out there.
Well, real athletes out there. NFL Combine is this next weekend. So me and DJ are gonna be locked in. You're gonna see some TikToks from me or DJ of our favorites, our highs and lows from the combine, who tested good, who didn't test good. I think is keeping an eye on the quarterbacks. Will Shadur throw? It's probably the biggest question right now. I can't wait to see some of the 40 times. I'm so excited to see some of the defensive linemen. I think we have a great defensive lineman draft again. So I'm like, really excited to analyze that. I think we have a
Yeah.
good running back class too. So I'm excited to see how they test. Um, NFL free agencies coming up in March. Obviously, we've talked about March Madness, Conference Championship weekend. I mean,
Hmm.
everything's starting to get ramped up. The NHL trade deadline's coming up,
Spring
playoffs,
training is about to start.
spring training. Drew's gonna come out of hibernation like Mariah Carey on Christmas, the day after Thanksgiving. Um, and I'm excited for him to kind of come in and when we get literally like right before the season starts, like doing
Hmm.
our full MLB preview, which I'm excited to do and dive in with you, DJ. Because I personally, DJ, I think baseball is low key kind of back because I'm
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm invested, and where I
Hmm.
wasn't as much before. I think the MLB's got some young studs, and it's
Yep.
exciting to watch some baseball during the summer this year.
Oh, for sure. And no doubt. We're going to move into our final segment. And so for those who have stuck with us for a long time, we've tried, and especially myself, have tried to put this category somewhere, right? What have I like? What could I do with this segment that makes everybody a little bit more invested, right? Or a little bit more interested in what we have to say. So this segment, and hopefully I have a nice big graphic by the time this comes down, is here's the deal, right? Me and Jacob are going to take 90 seconds, right? We can either, both of us have 90 seconds each. We are going to rant about whatever it is in sports. Doesn't have to be a topic that we discussed today. It could be something that we argue with. Depends on the person that is, that's talking. Or maybe at the end we rebuttal very quickly about what we said. But nonetheless, this is how we're gonna roll with it. Let us know what you guys think. Jacob, do you have a rant off the top of your head that that you want to go or?
Yeah, I'll let run rip here. The first thing that came to mind is the
No,
Bengals.
no, 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 no. Here's the deal.
Right.
Here's the deal. And
Here's
show that stuff with some energy.
here's the deal. The Bengals cannot get out of perpetual poverty. You got guys that need to get paid. You need to go pay them, right? Like you got to pay Jamar Chase and you got to pay T. Higgins and you got to pay Trey Hendrickson. Do you want to win Super Bowls? Do you want a chance to go win a Super Bowl? Well, you better pay your guys, right? You've done a great job drafting. These are homegrown guys. You guys were nothing until Joe Burrow got there, and look at you now. You made it to a Super Bowl. You basically were on the cusp of a playoffs, even though you sucked for the first 12 games of the year, going 4-8, right? Joe Burrow played MVP level football, and you're going to tell me you're not going to sign T. Higgins again, or you might not even play. May not even play Jamar Chase. I need the Bengals to get out of poverty because I'm sick and tired of owners being like, "I got all the money I need." No, pay your players.
No, great. I think they just put a franchise tag on T. Higgins for this year. So he is stuck there regardless, and he will have to wait for contract negotiations until next year. But the whole Jamar Chase thing, um,
Well, he could still sign. He could still get a new contract. It's just the franchise tag doesn't allow other people to negotiate with him.
mm, there
Because
you
that's
go.
what the Jags did to Josh Hines Allen. Um, because he was like, they franchise tagged him because they didn't want him to talk to anyone else, but they needed more time to get a deal done.
Right.
So they eventually got like a 5-year deal done, but like that's kind of the purpose of the franchise tag is it buys you extra time to negotiate. If you're not there quite yet.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, like Saquon when he was
Yeah,
franchise tagged there. Okay. All right. So that wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. I liked that one. Um, are you ready? You ready for mine?
I'm ready.
All right. I hope you guys are because this one just lights me up. So here's the deal, guys. And this is for the SEC and the Big Ten commissioners saying that you should get 4 automatic bids into the college football playoff is the most ridiculous thing that I have ever heard. What a bunch of crybaby weenies, because I'm trying my best not to curse here. It lights me up. the fact that you think you should get 4 automatic bids. We're lucky now. I mean, with the expanded conferences now, it makes it a little easier to maybe put 4 in there. But the Big Ten for the longest time was a one-man band, right, with Ohio State. The SEC, for the most part, is a two-man band, right? Like going throughout history. I mean, you have Alabama that's normally up there, and then you have one that's chasing right behind it, whether it's LSU or Georgia or Auburn, depending on the year. And to think that you deserve 4 is ridiculous. Is ridiculous. And then you're gonna just slap people in the face saying, "Oh, we'll give the Big 12 2. We'll give the ACC 2. We'll give the Group of 5 1, and then we'll have 2 or 3, at large." Oh my gosh, the most ridiculous thing I've heard. And what did the Big Ten had 4 this year, anyways, right? Right, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana. So, like, what gives? If your people are good enough, if your teams are good enough, right? That should be it. That should be it. It should be based on nothing else but the fact that your team is good enough, right? People already have the question marks about the size of the expansion to 12, right? And you're inevitably, maybe, probably going to expand it more, right? You don't need automatics. I don't want a 6-6 Michigan team that has 2 good wins at the end of the year to be AP number 24, right? And get a bid into the college football playoff, right? I don't want this bottom tier, this bottom feeder of a program to be risen to the dead, to watch them get even more obliterated by somebody else. You think these scores this year were bad and that some people this year didn't deserve to go? Imagine a 4th ranked Big Ten team getting to go. Absolutely outrageous. How would you even decide where they got to go? Who gets to go? Are you going by record, like AP? Like, what if the 4th best team is 7-5 Minnesota? You're gonna say they deserve to go? Absolutely, absolutely stupendous. 0 out of 10. And the fact that people put on their social media a hypothetical with this format, oh my gosh, lights me up. I needed to get that out. If you couldn't tell.
Well, DJ, take us home, buddy.
You said what?
Take us home.
Take us home. All right, no rebuttal, no comment.
It's one thing I've been harping on, I think, all college season. I'm in the same boat right now with the NCAA of like the SEC might be like a 13 bid league. And it's like some of those teams don't deserve to be in the NCAA tournament.
No, maybe not 13, but the SEC is running pretty deep this year.
It's good.
It's especially deep. If they have to.
It's deep, but you're telling me Oklahoma's a tournament team? Nah. Texas is starting to make a case, but they need a little bit more work in my eyes. But in terms of the football, I mean, you gotta play who you gotta play. You gotta win the games you're supposed to win. Alabama did not help themselves. Miami didn't help themselves. Like, you got 3 SEC teams in there, and it's not anyone's fault other than your own that you sucked in the college football playoff.
Yeah. No, just ridiculous. So, all right. Well, Jacob, any last thoughts? Nope. Alrighty. Well, guys, like you said, a lot of good stuff coming up here soon. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like in the comments here. If you agree with what me and Jacob here are talking about, what are your suggestions for, All Star weekend for the NBA? What do you have? What is your deal? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe all platforms, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to. Oh, I'm sorry. He has been Jacob Prail. I have been DJ McCatherine, and thank you for listening to The Deal with D and J.